BusyBox's expert information on running basics. How should I run?
Really, the idea about running is you've got to run how you're comfortable. A lot of people try and think too technically about running. So the important thing is that you just run comfortably. It's not particularly difficult. Above all, the important thing is not to start off running too fast. Go at a nice steady pace, and if you're not fit enough to keep running continuously for 5 or 10 minutes, it's a good idea to run for a little bit and then walk for a little bit.
How should I breathe when I run?
Breathing is something that is often thought about too much when people run. It's a good idea just to breathe normally. Obviously, in the first instances when you start running, breathing is one of the things that's quite difficult because your cardiovascular system is working far harder than it's used to. So your breathing can be a little bit increased and you won't be able to talk. But as a general rule, you should be looking to be able to speak while you're jogging.
Should I breathe through my nose or my mouth?
It's a bit of a fallacy that you have to breathe in through your nose and through your mouth. Of course, the airway that connects your nostrils and your mouth get joined together as one. So you'll find that even when you get quite tired and you need to get more oxygen into the body, you use your mouth anyway. The nose is there to filter off dust particles, but when you get too tired, your respiration increases. You naturally use your mouth anyway. So don't focus too much on using your nostrils. Breathe through your mouth and breathe however's comfortable.
Do I need to stretch before running?
Stretching is a good idea to do before running. Stretching is a little bit of a contentious issue among some people, some experts, but really stretching helps to prepare the muscles for a race and helps to warm them up, elongate the fibres so they contract efficiently, and certainly stretching has been proven to reduce chances of injury.
What running gear is right for me?
Really, as far as running gear is concerned, it's running gear that you're comfortable in. There are some very good running products on the market from some of the main brands. It's really something you're comfortable in, that's not going to rub in any areas, and something that's relatively that helps to breathe and fairly loose fitting in certain areas. There are some very good tight running tops, but you have to trial them before you take on a big race because sometimes they can be a bit uncomfortable and rub underneath the armpit. And the last thing you really want is to be in a little bit of pain under your armpits or in any other embarrassing areas come mile 16 or 18 of the marathon.
Where do I find the right shoes?
Running shoes are an essential part of running, mainly because they're the only part of your body which touches the ground. So it's essential to get the right pair of running shoes. If you have shoes which are too flat or too hard underneath, it can cause shock up your body and cause a whole host of injuries from your ankles up to your hips. So it's a good idea to get your running stride analysed by a specialist running shop which you can find online, and they'll be able to give you advice as to the correct type of shoes that you should be using.
How much should I spend on running shoes?
It's not often a good idea to go for the cheap running shoes. Ideally, you should be looking at spending at least £60 plus, and if you're undertaking the marathon, you'll probably need 2 pairs of running shoes.
What are shin splints?
Shin splints is a generic term for lower leg pain when you run, and there are a number of different types of shin splints, such as posterior compartment syndrome, medial tibial stress syndrome, anterior compartment syndrome. Essentially, shin splints is a discomfort in the lower leg, and the most common type of shin splint is where the muscle inside the leg expands and pushes against the sheath in the lower leg and causes a lot of discomfort.
How do I prevent shin splints?
Prevention of shin splints is you have to address all areas. You have to make sure your core is very strong so your body is stable when you run. Also, it's important just to take training very, very steadily and slowly. If you suddenly increase your mileage very suddenly, or you change your running surface, that can interfere with the lower leg biomechanics and it can cause shin splints. And the problem with shin splints is it takes quite a long time to get rid of them once you've got them. So it's a good idea to prevent rather than cure.
What is Achilles tendonitis?
Achilles tendonitis is another very common area of injury for many runners, and it affects the Achilles tendon just down the bottom where the calf muscle turns into a tendon. Achilles tendonitis is very sore injury and can creep up on you over time. Like shin splints, Achilles tendonitis is often as a result of increasing your mileage too prematurely or going on a run which is too intense for your muscles to be able to tolerate. Symptoms include pain in the morning, pain when you stand up on tiptoe, and it's a good idea, once again, to try and prevent having Achilles tendonitis rather than cure it when you have it, because it can be a nagging and painful injury.
How do I prevent Achilles tendonitis?
Prevention of Achilles tendonitis it's essential that you get your stride analysed and by getting the correct type of running shoe. in one instance, but also it's important to make sure you've got a good core stability. The problem if you have a weak core, it can rotate your pelvis anteriorly. This in turn will make your femur, your upper leg muscle, your upper leg bones rotate in and cause pronation. So it's a good idea to make sure that you have got good core strength by asking a personal trainer, and to make sure you prevent it in that way, as well as being sensible with your running shoes.
What is core strength and how does it help my running?
Core strength is a very complex area of fitness training, and an often aspect which is missed by many fitness professionals. It's certainly in recent years it's come to light that core stability and core strength is an essential part of running. Mainly because when you take a running stride, your core has to stabilise your whole body and your pelvis in order to maintain a consistent running stride. If you have a weak core, then that can cause all kinds of problems with the pelvis, which has a biomechanical knock-on effect with internal rotation, ultimately of your lower leg, which can cause overpronation and injuries of the heel. So although it sounds quite far-fetched, it's very, very likely that if you have a heel injury or knee injury, it could actually ultimately be because of weak core strength.
Are my knees susceptible to damage from running?
With knee injuries, provided you have the correct running shoes and you've been analysed and assessed by running specialists at a running shoe shop, there shouldn't be any undue pressure problems with the knees. Of course, running, when you consider running distances like a marathon, there's a lot of shock continuously through the body. So really, the main problem with knee pain is, the main reason why people get knee pain is because they either up the mileage too quickly or their biomechanics are incorrect. It's essential to get your stride analysed first, get the correct pair of trainers for you, make sure you have good core strength, and above all, you don't overdo the training. So take things nice and gently, nice and steady to start off with, and try not to rush through your training too quick. That's the recipe for disaster, really.
Should I run with a heart rate monitor?
Heart rate monitors are an invaluable tool for a runner. Heart rate monitors generally take the guesswork out of running. They'll tell you by giving you feedback on how quick your heart's beating if you're running too fast or if you're not running fast enough. A fantastic company to use is heartratemonitor.co.uk, who provide some of the best heart rate monitors on the market at very, very reasonable prices, and they'll also give you advice on their website as to how to use the heart rate monitors effectively. So if you're going to be running and you're going to be preparing for a marathon, I'd say a heart rate monitor is essential for your training.
How do I prevent blisters?
Unfortunately, blisters are just one of those things that you have to accept as a long-distance runner. Blisters can be prevented by using special socks, which you can buy from all good running stores. But really, one or two blisters, they're like a marathon runner's war wound. You've got to have a few, and they can be pretty gross. But it's always a good idea to make sure you don't use a new pair of trainers before race day. New pair of trainers generally will cause blisters somewhere, either on the inside of the foot or on the toes. So it's a good idea, except you're going to get blisters, and go through the pain.
Why do I need Vaseline, and where should it be applied?
A lot of runners use Vaseline to help lubricate the toes, and they can reduce the rubbing in the socks. Vaseline is very useful to help to reduce blisters and indeed chafing for various parts of the body when you go on a run. And it's advisable, if you are running a marathon on race day, is not to assume that everybody holding out a hand is giving you a high five, as I found out on my last marathon when I gave somebody a high five and all I got was a splatter full of Vaseline in my face. A lot of officials will stand out handing out Vaseline to put down areas which I should not mention to help reduce chafing. So do be careful about the number of people you high five on marathon day.
Should I run with music?
A lot of runners find that music is an invaluable tool to run with. Music helps to distract away from the pounding of your feet on the streets, and it can be very, very inspiring to run with music. And certainly with today's technology with iPods, it's a very good idea just to put on your best tunes. It doesn't necessarily have to be high beaty music. It's whatever music you like to listen to, and it can really detract away from the discomfort that long distance running can sometimes inflict on you, and it can be very uplifting when the going gets tough.
www.busybox.com